60 seconds.
Lights on. Down 2.5. Forward. Forward. That's 40 feet, down 2.5.
Well, I was very proud of Neil and Buzz because it was a fantastic accomplishment. It was a phenomenal event, but I was just like everybody else. I was watching television. Fantastic mission when they landed there on the moon, with Neil having to overfly that boulder field and set her down.
Got the shadow out there. Contact light. Okay, engine stop.
We copy you down, Eagle.
Listen, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
The last footprints made on the moon were made 20 years ago in 1972, and some of those were yours. Does it disappoint you that it's been that long?
I'm really surprised. I thought when we left the moon that we'd have a base up there in a couple of years, but we didn't do it. I think it's time for us to look at going back to the moon now. There's a lot of things that we can learn about the planets that we don't know with human beings. Sure, we have a lot of problems here on Earth, and sure, they need to be solved, but they're not going to be solved by not expanding our knowledge, and that's what space exploration is all about. Expanding human knowledge is just fundamentally critical for people right now. We're at the stage in human civilization where if we don't use our brains, we're probably not going to make it. We're not going to be able to make it with our muscles anymore. We're going to have to think about these things. We're going to have to go out there, find new knowledge, look at that new knowledge, and apply it to solving the problems of tomorrow, which there'll be, just because of population growth alone on Earth, will be just more and more of those problems that we have to solve. I mean, we're all worried right now about things like veterans benefits and health and human services, and we sure ought to be worried about those things. But because of population increases in the future, those things would get worse instead of better unless we make real advances in science and technology.
The same team of Apollo engineers, the same team of engineers that took us to the moon, is the same team that conceived of and designed and built the shuttle.
Pretty much.
And you know, with regard to both the Apollo effort and this new shuttle effort, tell us a little bit about some of the challenges involved in designing and building a spacecraft and a program for which many of the necessary technologies had not even been developed yet.
The shuttle was a remarkable accomplishment. As I look back on it, nobody had any idea where we could build a launch vehicle that would fly out of orbit at these phenomenal temperatures, some of which are about 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit, and be okay. But I can guarantee you that works. Man, I was really impressed with it. When we were up there, the longer we stayed up there, the more I knew it was going to work the way everybody had advertised. And I was willing to stay up some extra days and see, and but we had to come back. It was really a really fantastic piece of machinery, and a tribute to all the people that worked so hard and so long on that.
You commanded the very first shuttle Space Lab mission. How do you think the shuttle has matured as a proving ground for science operations in space, the ability to produce new knowledge in a laboratory environment in orbit?
On our Space Lab mission, we had more than 70 experiments up there, and things went awry. You can't believe how many problems we had, but in real time, these people up there just got together and worked as a team to solve those problems and correct things and keep right on going. They never slowed down, they never missed a lick, they didn't complain, they just did the job, and quite frankly, that's the way teams work well together on Earth, and people had a lot of doubts whether you could do it in space with a laboratory. Well, the laboratory in space provides a unique environment. Microgravity, incredible vacuum, temperature extremes, and we'll be able to use that to learn a great deal with human beings in space. For example, on this last mission, there was a really good interaction. For one of the first times, the crew was being used the way they're supposed to be used in space as true scientists. They'd go up there and do something and be able to analyze how well it was working on the spot because of their knowledge. What I think is going to come of all this, and you know, is we're going to learn about materials processing in space. And from learning those kind of things, the way materials process in space, we'll be able to learn how to do that kind of processing, a lot of it on planet Earth. And when we do that, it'll mean new jobs and new technologies for the future. And that's going to be absolutely critical to a technical country like the United States in order for us to maintain and to enhance our quality of life here in the next century.
Why is space station, as it's been called, the next logical step?
To me, the space station is the next logical step in terms of what it's going to allow us to do with the kinds of things that we've been doing on these space lab missions. In respect to materials processing and other definite kinds of materials processing, such as protein crystal growth, such as large growth of crystals, some of which can be performed only on a place like the space station. I think we're going to learn a lot from better optics through containerless processing. And there are many other areas. Maybe we can use the space station to even manufacture crystals like gallium arsenide much more pure, so that we can develop the computers that we need today that are 100 times faster and 100 times smaller than the computers that we're now using. That's just one example. But as a planetary explorer person, basically, I think that we should use the space station to develop our ability to live and work in space. You need to learn how the machinery operates in zero gravity for long-duration space flights if we're ever going to explore the planets around the solar system, and we're going to do it sooner or later.
How would you assess the value of having humans in the loop, directly involved in the long-term scientific processes?
I think that's very important. I'm not an anti-machine person. I think human beings should be integrated with the machineries that are just extensions of their fingertips and their minds in everything they do in space. There are times when a machine can do a lot better job. A computer can add a heck of a lot faster than I'll ever be able to add. And it does an awful lot of information display and selective display, but having that human being integrated into that machinery so that the machine is working for you instead of you working for it is a key element of our process. One that we've implemented in flying the space shuttle, and one in which scientific investigators are doing with both the space lab and space station. We're going to be doing that kind of work, and that is really, if you're going to produce, you've got to have those elements, humans and machines, intimately entwined. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's great, and you can really improve productivity when you do that, just as you do it with robotics on the planet.
What is your personal hope for the future of the space program?
I certainly would like to see us put up a space station to develop our ability to operate for a long time in space. We're right now, the United States is where Columbus was 500 years ago. The time is to get out there and discover these places, investigate and expand our knowledge, and then apply that knowledge to solving problems here on the Earth and other places. And we're very capable of doing it, and like I say, we ought to get on with it. Our number one bullet at the National Aeronautics and Space Administration is to expand human knowledge of the atmosphere, of space, and of the Earth. I've always felt that we're in a war, the whole human race is, and whether we know it or not, and I always call it we have a war on poverty, a war on crime, a war on drugs. But the war that we really must solve if we're going to be successful in the next century is a war that nobody knows we're in, and that's a war on ignorance. If we solve that war, we can whip all the other things in the process. That's what space exploration is all about, expanding our knowledge of what's going on around us. And boy, it's in its infancy. And I think it's important to do it now because I don't know how much time we've got, the human race does. We need to get smarter, and we need to learn better how to control our destinies. And I think space exploration is a key to that.